where you get all the gods and lords talk. And it's a deep thing y'all have to grasp. Because no nationality of people has anything in their culture or their history about gods and lords reigning supreme over them in the life. No other nationality has this. Until white people mix and mingle with the nation, then you begin to see gods and lords. So when they find these little islands out here and they find these little native people who have been native to the island for 30,000 years, they still discovering things like this now. Those black people or those dark-skinned people that they find on them islands, because you never find white people on these islands. They discover islands every day with people that inhabit them, that are natives to the land. They are the aborigines to the land. And it's a deep thing, because they're dark in flesh, and they don't know nothing about no gods and none of that. They know the life provides. And if you give and receive to the life will give back to you, and so on and so forth. And this is how their culture is. Then white people come along and they teach them gods and lords. And it's a deep thing, because if you go to white people's history, see, we have all the questions in the world about what are the giants? Where did white people come from? Etc., etc. But we look for the answers in the texts and things we believe in. Mind you, if you want to know about the giants and white people, you have to look in their history. Now, when you're dealing with their history, you're talking about Greeks and the Norse. And when you read these histories, this is where you find gods and lords. In all the other black civilizations, you don't hear nothing about that until white people interfered with their way. So if you go back to Africa, they didn't believe in gods and things like this. They believed in every aspect of the life and its special quality to it. Nothing was left out. And then as white people begin to come into play, or at that time they would have just been the giants, because ancient Egypt culture go back far. So they weren't dealing with white people, Menhite. They were dealing with the white giants at that time. We deal with the white people. So it's like when you get to AD times, this is where all the giants were killed off, and all you had left at this point was the remnants, which were white men our height. And this is where the confusion comes from. But when you go to white history, this is where you get gods and lords. See, you have to understand, if you go to Norse mythology, you have 9 different realms of existence. And each realm has beings native to that world. So stay with me. Now, when you're dealing with Norse, you have Vanaheim. Now, Vanaheim is a world. And the beings that live on that world are the Vanir lords. And they're the kind of beings they are lords. So we live on Earth, and we're Earthlings. So like that. And the kind of beings we are humans. So this is how the Vanir lords are. They live on Vanaheim, therefore they are the Vanir. But the type of being they are is called a lord. Type of being you are is called a human. This is what we call ourselves. They call themselves lords. Then you have Asgard. This is another world out of the 9. And they call themselves the Aesir gods, or the Aesir gods, which is just male or female. Now, they're from Asgard. The type of beings they would be is called gods. They're from Asgard, so they're called Aesirs, or Asgardians. And the type of beings they are called gods. Now you have Alfheim. Alfheim is the world to the beings who are elves. You have Svartalfheim. This is the world to the dwarves. The kind of beings they are dwarves. You have Jotunheim. The type of beings that live on Jotunheim are giants. They call themselves the Jotuns because they come from Jotunheim. Just like you're from Earth and you call yourself an Earthling. So follow. And the type of being they are is a giant. Then you have Midgard, and Midgard is earth. And you know, the earthlings call themselves humans. Then you have Niflheim, which is the primordial world of darkness and ice. And then you have Muspelheim, which is the primordial world of fire and light. And then you have Helheim, and the goddess Hel lives there. So you have to grasp, this is how you got those names. See, when the giants came long ago, they called themselves what they were. Lords. See, when you're dealing with the Vanaheim, you have the Vanir Lords, you have a guy named Freyr. And Freyr was always referred to as Lord. This is why I say the Vanir Lords, the type of beings they were lords. Because they always referred to Freyr as a lord. And they always referred to the Asgards as gods. So Odin was referred to as a god. Thor, a god. Now when you're dealing with the Vanir Lords, you have Freyr. Mimir, I think. They were referred to as lords. Now, when the giants came here, you had other interferences, like you had those from Asgard coming down here on the rainbow, according to the text of Norse. And they would try to stop the giants from coming here. So this is how you get the gods and the lords intervening with what the giants was doing. And over time, we don't see giants who refer to themselves as lords and gods. All we see is white people. And this is where the confusion comes. Because we like, okay, gods and lords, this is like the invisible ones, the invisible one that owns life. And that's how that confusion happened. But it has nothing to do with truth. Even the giants, when they came, they wouldn't have told man, oh, I'm your god. They just telling them what kind of beings they are. We're gods from Asgard or whatever. We're the Jotun from Jotunheim. So on and so forth. We're the Vanir Lords. So whatever, mind you, the Asgards, the Asgardians, the Vanir Lords, the Jotuns, they're all giants. But Jotunheim is right on the same realm as Midgard, which is Earth. So this is how the giants come over. And it's a deep thing because a lot of people wonder, when God flooded the earth and everyone was killed off except for Noah, how did the giants resurface again if everybody was killed? Because the giants weren't from here. So more just came. You have to think and have an understanding when you read. But this is how you got all of that. Gods, lords, Nephilim, because those from Jotunheim, when they die, they go to Niflheim. This is where those who live dishonored lives go. So this is how all those words and misconfusions happen, because we don't actually use those words anymore in our vocabulary, unless we're reading ancient texts, and we confuse it. And this is how all the confusion happened. They were basically running the life. Giants came here, they mixed and mingled in. They find the bones now in today's times, but they still don't quite understand. The pieces are not going together. And this is because all of the texts from all civilizations are not being read together, because it's all coming from their own separate perspective or account. The Hebrews are telling their account in their interactions with these beings and their history. In their history, they're the ones that begin to slay these beings. Others have their own history and their own interactions with them. So no one's story is plagiarizing anyone else's. The thing is, this is Earth, and this is why all the stories sound similar, but they're slightly different because of perspective. If you're reading white people's history, they're not going to tell it in the perspective of a Hebrew. The Hebrews were being oppressed by the giants. The Giants' history is not going to be told the way the Hebrews is, but it's the same event. So we have to grasp. When you're reading like Norse and Greek mythology, their history always starts with the giants. The Titans, the Olympians, the Jotunheim, the Aesir gods. This is why. And then their text goes into how they begin to mix and mingling with men. So it's a deep thing you have to grasp. Also, I want to touch up on something in the Bible, because in the Bible they speak on circumcision. And a lot of people don't know why the Hebrew people of ancient times, or the Israelites, was so stronghold on circumcision. The reason why was because of the giants. They understood the giants were not circumcised. They lived a certain way. They did sodomy, meaning when you're giving someone head, this has nothing to do with reproducing. Sex is for reproducing. So if you're giving someone oral sex and then they come, that's sodomy, because that's not normal according to what sex is for. You're not getting anyone pregnant that way. Having anal sex, it's unnatural. It's sodomy because it doesn't lead to reproducing. Having sex man on man, woman on woman, this is why this was all viewed as abominations, because it had nothing to do with the point. And this is how they were living. This is the ways of life they taught men. Making metal into weapons and killing and all these different things. They taught men these things. And in return, men worshipped them because they didn't know this otherwise. And it's a deep thing. This is why the Hebrews were so stronghold on circumcision, because the ancient giants and their remnants, which were white people and all other nationalities who were mixed in with them. So we got to